Chapter 1. The Man Who Liked Quiet. Sam Baxter liked mornings because they didn't ask questions. His alarm went off at 6:45 every weekday. A calm, polite chime that suggested cooperation rather than warfare. He swung his legs out of bed, feet finding the same spot on the floor as they had every morning for years. Shower. Coffee black, no sugar. Toast, lightly buttered. Eggs if he had time, which he usually did because Sam did not rush. Quiet was not something he endured. Quiet was something he curated. At 32, Sam had achieved what many people claimed they wanted and very few seemed to enjoy. A life with minimal chaos and no unnecessary performance. His job paid well enough, engaged his brain, and ended when it was supposed to. His co-workers were pleasant without being invasive. No one overshared. No one ambushed him with motivational slogans or insisted he join recreational leagues. At 5:30, he went home. At 6:30, he cooked dinner, something small but intentional. Tonight, it was lemon chicken with roasted vegetables. He ate at the kitchen table, phone face down, television off. When he finished, he washed his plate immediately. At 7:30, Sam went downstairs. The basement was the one place where quiet surrendered gently, making room for sound that had purpose. The home theater wasn't extravagant by influencer standards, but it was exact. A high-definition projector filled the far wall. 5 reclining seats formed a deliberate arc, even though only the center one saw regular use. A popcorn machine stood proudly in the corner like a shrine to a bygone era. Shelves held bins of candy, chocolate, sour, nostalgic, and a freezer stocked with pizzas, corn dogs, and one box of pretzels Sam had purchased by accident and had never touched. At 7:55, Sam poured kernels into the machine. At 8 sharp, he sat down, centered himself in the chair, tapped the control panel on his tablet, and went live. The familiar intro card rolled across the stream. Was it worth the popcorn? Movies, rants, and the joy of watching together, sort of. Sam didn't show his face often. Tonight, the camera view framed him from the shoulders down, the screen glow catching his hands as they folded loosely in his lap. "All right," he said, voice even and unhurried. "Good evening." Tonight's selection came from a user request that I'm fairly sure was sarcastic, but we're honoring it anyway. The chat began to scroll. Retrorex. No backing out now, celluloid soul. I can't believe this exists. Janet Movies. First-time viewer? Long-time lurker eyes? Sam smiled faintly. For those of you new here, welcome. Rules are the same as always. We're synced, timestamps matter, and spoilers go in all caps or not at all. He cued the movie, an obscure 1980s sci-fi romantic drama whose DVD cover promised more lasers than the budget had delivered. The custom app did its quiet miracle, syncing the playback for several dozen viewers. Sam pressed play. 10 minutes in, the chat followed its usual pattern. Sarcasm, nostalgia, a few jokes about hair, a small debate over whether the score was intentionally terrible or merely ambitious. Then a new username appeared. Elchin_stats. That dolly shot wasn't accidental. They're trying to imply intimacy they didn't earn yet. Sam blinked. He kept his eyes on the screen, but his attention had shifted. That's actually a fair point, he said. Although given what we know about this director, Elchin_stats, he could also just have liked how it looked and not thought any deeper than that. A few users reacted immediately. Retrorex. Fight, Janet Movies. OMG, she's not wrong though. Sam huffed a quiet laugh before he could stop himself. I'm not fighting, he said. I'm conceding partial ground, which I rarely do. Elchin_stats. Noted. I'll mark the calendar. The exchange lingered with him longer than it should have. Sam was used to interaction, he loved it actually, but this felt different. Considered. Present. As the movie progressed, he assumed Lily continued commenting. Not constantly. Not performatively. Just enough to sharpen the edges of the viewing experience. When the protagonist delivered a melodramatic line about destiny, Sam muttered, and that's our cue for emotional overreach. Elchin_stats. Or honesty from someone who's terrible at it. Sam paused half a second too long before replying. That might be generous. Elchin_stats. Generosity costs less than cynicism. Long term, anyway. The chat exploded into gifs and mock-os. Sam cleared his throat. We're not getting philosophical before the second act, he said, but his voice was warm despite himself. When the movie ended, mercifully, it was Sam who didn't rush the wrap-up. All right, he said. Final thoughts. No, this was not worth the popcorn, unless the popcorn is carrying emotional weight the script refused to. Chuckles in the chat. He hesitated, then added, but it was better watched together than alone. The chat slowly logged off. Sam shut down the stream, powered down the projector, and sat in the dim light longer than necessary. Upstairs, his phone buzzed. A new message notification from an email address he didn't recognize. Subject, Sync Issue Feedback. Hi Sam. This is Lily Chen from Chen and Alvarez Software. I worked on your custom sync application. Tonight's minor latency spike resolved itself, but I wanted to flag it. Also, thanks for the stream. Sam stared at the message. The basement hummed softly behind him, popcorn machine cooling. The silence no longer quite as empty as it had been that morning. Quiet, he realized distantly, could still make room. Chapter 2, Popcorn, Meet Static. Sam Baxter reread the email 3 times before replying, which was 2 times more than he normally allowed himself and 1 more than felt reasonable for a message that was, on the surface, entirely professional. Hi Sam. This is Lily Chen from Chen and Alvarez Software. He had hired Chen and Alvarez 6 months ago. He remembered the initial consultation clearly. A small office that smelled faintly of solder and burnt coffee. A whiteboard full of boxes with arrows that made sense only if you already understood the problem. He remembered Alvarez. Tall, thoughtful, prone to nodding while others spoke. And vaguely a woman who had asked 3 pointed questions and then gone quiet for the rest of the meeting. He had not, until now, attached that woman to a username with incisive timing and a suspiciously kind take on melodrama. Sam set his phone down on the kitchen counter, paced once, then picked it back up and typed. Hi Lily, thanks for the heads up. I didn't notice the spike on my end, but I appreciate you tracking it. And thanks for watching. Sam. He stared at the message before sending it, then decided not to delete anything and hit send. The phone buzzed less than a minute later. You're welcome. Also, for what it's worth, I stand by my commentary. That dolly shot was undeserved. Sam laughed out loud, surprised by the sound, by how unguarded it came out. He typed back before he could overthink it. I'm willing to concede the point, on the condition that you acknowledge the score tried its best. The score tried too hard. But yes, a valiant effort. He let the conversation rest there, which felt like the right choice. Sam was good at right choices. They were the scaffolding of his quiet. Still, the following evening, when 7:55 rolled around and he poured the popcorn kernels into the machine, he found himself scanning the chat sooner than usual. Lily didn't comment immediately. Sam told himself he didn't care. He reminded himself that viewers came and went, that the whole joy of the channel was its impermanence, shared moments untethered from expectation. 8 minutes in, just as the protagonist of tonight's film made an earnest speech about hope, a familiar username appeared. Elchin_stats. So this is what emotional restraint looks like. Sam smiled despite himself. Welcome back, he said, keeping his tone even. We're all very impressed you survived yesterday's cinematic experience. Elchin_stats. Barely. Needed a palate cleanser. Celluloid soul. Oh, and oh, now there are regulars. Retrorex. Give it a week. Sam shook his head. Ignore them, he said mildly. They think consistency is a threat. The movie unfolded. Smaller, quieter, better than the night before, and the banter flowed naturally. Lily pointed out subtleties Sam had missed. Sam pushed back just enough to keep the exchange sharp. The chat noticed but didn't dominate. After the stream ended, Sam didn't linger in the basement. He powered down with efficiency and went upstairs, where his phone was already buzzing. You and I apparently antagonize films in very compatible ways. Sam leaned against the counter, thumb hovering. Complementary critique styles can be dangerous. Noted. Still fun. There it was again. That word. Simple. Disarming. Before he could respond, another message came through. Also, work question. Alvarez wants to schedule a routine check-in about the app. No pressure. Just maintenance and feature ideas. Sam exhaled slowly. This at least fit into a category he understood. Meetings had scripts. Sure. Happy to. Let me know when. The meeting ended up scheduled for Thursday afternoon at Chen and Alvarez's office. Sam took the afternoon off work, an unremarkable decision that nonetheless made his coworkers blink in surprise, and drove across town with the radio off. The office hadn't changed. Same whiteboard. Same solder smell. Alvarez greeted him warmly, gestured him toward the small conference table. Lily arrived last, laptop tucked under her arm. In person, she was smaller than Sam had expected, hair pulled back in a way that suggested habit rather than styling. She wore jeans, sneakers, and a cardigan that looked genuinely comfortable. No performative polish. No exaggerated confidence. Sam, she said, smiling. Nice to see you again. Likewise, he replied and meant it. The meeting was efficient. They reviewed metrics, discussed potential improvements. Sam answered questions thoughtfully. Lily asked better ones. At no point did they mention the channel. When Alvarez excused himself to take a call, the silence that followed wasn't awkward, but it was charged, like a pause waiting to be filled honestly. So, Lily said lightly, closing her laptop, I should probably apologize for heckling your commentary. Sam considered the admission. I prefer engaged viewers, he said. Even critical ones. Good, she said. Because I have notes. He laughed softer than before. Of course you do. They stood there, both smiling, neither in a hurry. Out of curiosity, Lily said. Do you ever watch movies with other people? Not often, Sam answered. He didn't elaborate, but he didn't deflect either. She nodded. They're quieter alone. Sometimes that's better. Sometimes, Sam agreed. She glanced at her watch. I have to get back to debugging, but if you ever want someone else to beta test a stream feature, I'm around. He hesitated only a moment. Actually, he said, I've been thinking about setting up a private test, off-channel. No audience. Lily's eyebrows lifted, just slightly. Like a screening? Like a screening, Sam confirmed. Her smile widened, not performative, not restrained. Just pleased. I'd like that. He walked out of the office with lighter steps than he'd gone in with. That night, Sam sat in the center chair of his home theater. Lights dimmed, screen blank. He hadn't started the stream yet. He hadn't even chosen the movie. For the first time in a long while, the quiet felt anticipatory rather than complete. And Sam, who had always loved silence for what it asked of him, found himself curious about how it might sound shared. Chapter 3, The Theater Next Door. The coincidence announced itself on a Tuesday night, which felt appropriate. Tuesdays were structurally honest. They didn't pretend to be exciting, which made them dangerous in their own quiet way. Sam had just come upstairs from the basement, the echo of end credits still settling in his ears, when he heard the moving truck. It was a low diesel rumble at first, then the unmistakable thunk of a loading ramp. Sam paused in his kitchen, one hand resting on the back of a chair, listening. The sound came from outside, not the street, but closer, adjacent. He frowned. The house next door had been empty for almost a year. A for rent sign had suffered quietly in the yard through snow, then rain, then pollen. Sam had appreciated the vacancy without ever consciously acknowledging it. Empty spaces had a way of slipping into his life unnoticed, as long as they didn't demand anything. He stepped toward the front window and parted the curtain. A white truck idled in the driveway next door. A woman stood on the sidewalk, hands on her hips, surveying the house with an expression that suggested optimism tempered by realism. Sam's first impression was hair. Pulled back, practical, familiar. His second impression landed with considerably more force. "Oh," he said aloud to no one. Lily Chen bent to pick up a box, straightened, and looked directly at him through the glass. There was a beat, long enough to acknowledge recognition, short enough to still pretend this was happening to someone else. Then she smiled. Sam panicked. He did not flail or yelp or knock anything over. Sam Baxter did not do those things. But internally, the careful furniture of his mind shifted abruptly, as if someone had opened a door he'd assumed was locked. He lowered the curtain too quickly, cursed himself for doing so, then stood there staring at the fabric as if it might offer guidance. "Get a grip," he muttered, then walked, at a very measured pace, to the front door. By the time he stepped outside, Lily was halfway up the walkway toward him, empty-handed, cardigan sleeves pushed up, expression amused in a way that felt dangerously familiar. "Well," she said, "this explains the popcorn smell." Sam blinked. What?" She gestured behind him. "Your house smells like a movie theater," which I assumed was either a very specific lifestyle choice or, well, she smiled wider. Hi, Sam said, then winced inwardly. "Brilliant. You didn't mention you lived here," Lily added, glancing between the houses. "You didn't mention you were moving," Sam countered, then immediately regretted the tone. It sounded defensive, which hadn't been the intention. She tilted her head. "Fair." They stood there, neither of them rushing to fill the space, which might have been comfortable under different circumstances. "I didn't know the house was rented again," he said finally. "Signed the lease last week," she replied. "Timing, apparently." He nodded. "Apparently." Another pause. This one stretched. Offline Lily was quieter. Or maybe just different. Still observant, but less pointed. Less performative. It occurred to Sam that this was likely who she actually was, stripped of a chat box and a running commentary. "I hope that's okay," she said after a moment. "The neighbor thing." "Of course," Sam said quickly. "I mean, not that you need permission. Yes, it's fine." She laughed softly. "You narrate your discomfort." "I narrate most things," he admitted. "Occupational hazard, right? The channel." Her eyes flicked past him, as if she could see through the walls to the basement. "So that's really down there." "That's really down there," he confirmed. "Wow. It's less glamorous in person," he said. "I doubt that," Lily replied. Behind her, the moving truck engine cut off. A man Sam assumed was a mover waved and disappeared back into the truck. "I should get back to this," Lily said, gesturing vaguely at her half-unloaded life. "But it's good to know I won't be yelling into the void if I need sugar." Sam smiled despite himself. "I bake sometimes." Her eyebrows rose. "Dangerous information." "I regret nothing." She stepped back toward her driveway, then paused. "Hey Sam." "Yes. This isn't weird, right?" He considered the question carefully. "Not yet." She laughed again, brighter this time. "Good." As she turned away, Sam realized his heart was beating faster than it had any right to. He went back inside and leaned against the door, exhaling slowly. "Well," he said to the empty house, "that's new." 2 nights later, Sam stood in his basement staring at the seating configuration like it had personally betrayed him. 5 chairs. Always 5 chairs. Center was his. The others existed conceptually. Potentially. They were symmetry, not invitation. He sighed, walked over, and adjusted the second chair, just slightly. Enough to acknowledge that it might be used. Upstairs, the doorbell rang. Sam froze, Then he shook his head, ascended the stairs, and opened the door. Lily stood on the porch holding a bottle of wine. I come bearing neighborly goodwill, she said. And an apology. For, I think I called your life choices a dangerous amount of popcorn access when we met. You weren't wrong, Sam said. He stepped aside. Come in. She took in the entryway, the clean lines, the absence of clutter. This is very you, she said. I don't know what that means. I do. They moved into the kitchen. Sam gestured toward the counter. You can put that there. I don't usually drink during streams, but this isn't one. Just a screening? She asked. Just a screening. They descended the basement stairs together. Lily stopped on the last step, gaze sweeping the space. Oh, she said quietly. Sam waited. This is. She trailed off, then shook her head. You're right. Not glamorous. Better. He felt something loosen at her reaction. I'll count that as a win. They sat. Not too close. Not awkwardly far. So, Lily said, settling into the recliner. Do we talk during the movie? Or is this one of your sacred silences? Sam considered. Commentary is allowed, he said. Encouraged, even. Good, she said. I have thoughts. The movie began. 10 minutes in, Lily leaned back and said, You don't actually live a boring life. Sam glanced at her. I never said I did. You let people assume it. Yes. Why? He answered honestly. It filters out the ones who wouldn't understand. She nodded slowly. That's effective. A beat. And lonely, she added, not unkindly. Sam didn't respond right away. The screen flickered on, casting light over the quiet space, over two people sitting side by side. No barriers but the ones they hadn't decided how to name yet. Maybe, he said at last. The movie played on. Outside, through the foundation walls, the neighborhood held its breath, oblivious to the small but significant shift occurring beneath it. Chapter 4. Spoilers ahead. They didn't talk about the screening the next day. Sam noticed that first. Noticed it the way he noticed most things. Quietly, without alarm, filing it away as data. Lily waved when she pulled into her driveway. Sam waved back while taking out the trash. Normal. Neighborly. Entirely too easy to misinterpret. He spent the workday efficiently and without distraction, which should have been reassuring. Instead, it felt like a trick. His mind returned, uninvited, to the way Lily had said lonely the night before. Not like an accusation, not like a diagnosis. Just an observation offered gently, as if she trusted him not to recoil. That evening, Sam streamed as usual. A different movie, a different rhythm. Lily didn't show up in the chat. He told himself it was fine. He believed it, mostly. When the stream ended, he shut everything down and sat in the dim basement longer than usual. The popcorn machine clicked as it cooled. The second chair remained slightly angled toward the center, as it had been since she sat there. He straightened it back into place. The knock came at 9:20. Sam looked up at the basement stairs, brow furrowing. Nobody knocked on his door at 9:20 unless something had gone wrong. Power outages. Lost deliveries. Emergency baked goods. He went upstairs and opened the door. Lily stood there, hands in her jacket pockets, hair loose this time. Her expression was thoughtful, not smiling. Hey, she said. Sorry to interrupt. You're not, Sam replied automatically, then corrected himself. I mean, what's up? She hesitated, then held up a DVD case. I was unpacking and found this. Thought of you. He took it, glanced down at the cover. An old foreign film. Thoughtful. Sparse. Not something that trended. I love this, he said, surprised. How did you? I dated a film student once, she said with a shrug. I picked things up. Mostly opinions. He smiled despite the implication. Do you want to watch it? Yes, she said. Then, immediately, unless that's weird. He considered, then shook his head. Not weird. This time, when they went downstairs, Sam didn't fuss with the seating. Lily chose the spot next to him without comment, setting her jacket over the arm of the chair. They didn't start the movie right away. So, Lily said, Last night, Sam echoed. You went quiet. That's on brand. She smiled. True, but not like that. He took a breath. I don't disagree with what you said. That wasn't my question. I know. Silence spread between them. Not tense, not padded. Just present. I meant what I said, Lily continued. About filtering people out. It's efficient. But efficiency isn't the same as safety. Sam watched the blank screen. Safety isn't nothing. No, she agreed. But it's not everything either. He turned to look at her fully. You don't actually know what you're walking into here. She met his gaze evenly. Then show me. The words settled between them with unexpected weight. He reached for the remote and started the movie. For a while, they watched without talking. The film unfolded slowly. Long shots, minimal dialogue, the kind of story that trusted the audience to meet it halfway. Halfway through, Lily spoke. This character. He keeps waiting for the right moment. Sam nodded. He thinks restraint is virtue. And is it? Sometimes, Sam said. Sometimes it's just fear with better posture. Lily's mouth curved. That's good. It's also familiar, he added before he could stop himself. She didn't comment, but her attention sharpened. When the character on screen finally spoke, voice trembling, Lily exhaled softly. He waited too long, she said. Or just long enough, Sam countered. She turned to him. Do you believe that? He hesitated. Then, honestly, I'm not sure anymore. The movie ended on a quiet note. No resolution, just implication. Lily stayed seated. So did Sam. Can I ask you something? She said. Yes. Why don't the people in your life know about the channel? He considered deflecting. He didn't. Because it's mine, he said. Uncomplicated. No expectations attached. And relationships are complicated? They can be. So can movies. He huffed a laugh. That's different. Is it? He thought about it, about his reluctance to let people see him fully, about the way he reserved his enthusiasm as if it were a finite resource. When I like something, he said slowly, I give it my full attention. I don't know how to do half investments. Lily nodded. That's not a flaw. It is if the return isn't guaranteed. She studied him. You're not actually worried about them losing interest. He raised an eyebrow. You're worried about yours, she finished. The accuracy of it hit him harder than he expected. I've dated people who treated passion like decoration, Lily said. Something to admire until it became inconvenient. And I decided I wouldn't be someone's accessory. Sam turned toward her fully now. You wouldn't be. She held his gaze. I need to hear that from the person it would matter to. He didn't answer immediately. He didn't rush it. I don't audition, he said finally. If I let someone in, I expect reciprocity. Not enthusiasm on demand. Commitment. She smiled softly. That's what I'm offering. The words hung there. Simple, unembellished, heavier than any confession. Sam took a steadying breath. Then I should tell you something. Yes. I've built my life to be quiet on purpose, he said. Because noise was exhausting. But I don't want silence to be a shield. She reached out, touching his arm briefly, deliberately. Good. They didn't kiss. They sat there a while longer, the hum of the projector fading, the basement holding a different kind of quiet now, one that waited, not withdrew. When Lily stood to leave, she paused near the stairs. For what it's worth, she said. This was worth the popcorn. Sam smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. As he watched her go, he realized something had fundamentally shifted. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but unmistakably. The movie was over. The story, however, had started rolling. Chapter 5. Reviews without a script. Sam noticed Lily's absence the way he noticed everything else in his life that changed. Quietly, with a precise awareness that made it impossible to pretend it hadn't happened. The Tuesday after their second screening, the chat scrolled faster than usual. Not louder, just faster. A brittle energy that suggested people were filling space rather than enjoying it. Sam sat centered in his chair, posture familiar, hands relaxed. The intro card faded. He gave his usual greeting, voice steady, cadence practiced. All right, tonight we're revisiting something that never quite got the audience it deserved, which feels appropriate. A few emojis popped up. A couple of regular usernames chimed in with greetings. Lily did not. He waited through the first 5 minutes of the movie. Not consciously, he told himself, just incidentally. The chat settled into commentary. Jokes landed. Someone complained about the lighting choices. Sam responded where appropriate. He did not look at the second chair. 10 minutes in, a message appeared that made his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. Retrorex, did your co-pilot bail on us? Sam didn't answer right away. Janet Movies. Oh well, I was wondering, Celluloid Soul. She had good takes. Sam exhaled slowly through his nose. She has her own life, he said mildly. Which I recommend. A beat. And co-pilot implies a hierarchy that does not exist. The chat moved on, but the moment lingered. Sam felt it in the way attention tilted, subtly toward speculation rather than shared experience. The rest of the stream passed without incident. Sam delivered his critique, fielded questions, wrapped up cleanly. When he powered everything down, the basement felt larger than it had in weeks. The silence didn't wrap itself around him comfortably. It hovered, unsettled. Upstairs, Sam stood in his kitchen, phone on the counter, screen dark. He didn't text Lily. He told himself there was no reason to. They hadn't established expectations. Nothing had been promised. What they'd shared, whatever it was, had been specific, bounded, deliberate. That night, he slept poorly. Lily noticed the shift too. She watched the stream archived the next morning while eating cereal out of a mug, sitting on the floor of her still half-unpacked living room. The clatter of dialogue and chat commentary filled the space oddly, like audio leaking from someone else's apartment. Sam sounded the same. That was the problem. He was smooth where he'd been responsive, polite where he'd been present. The rhythm was intact, but the texture was gone. She closed the browser before the wrap-up. He's fine, she told herself, which meant, frustratingly, that she wasn't. She'd skipped the stream intentionally. Not as a test, she wasn't 20, but as a recalibration. She'd walked home from work that night feeling the need for distance she hadn't asked herself permission for. When you leaned in toward people like Sam, you needed to know whether they leaned back by choice or momentum. She'd told herself she'd watch later, then hadn't. On Wednesday evening, the neighbors passed each other at the mailboxes. "Hey," Lily said casually, slotting envelopes under her arm. "Hey," Sam replied. They stood there, not quite facing each other. "Good stream last night," Lily added. "Thanks," Sam said. "I missed your commentary." The words slipped out before caution could intervene. They landed heavier than intended. She looked at him more closely. "I had things to finish." "Of course." His tone was neutral. Too neutral. A pause. "Well," Lily said, gesturing toward her house. "I should—" "Yeah," Sam said. They parted with polite nods. That night, Lily lay on her couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying the exchange until irritation sharpened into clarity. "You're doing the thing," she accused herself, waiting for proof instead of asking for it. Across the street, Sam sat at his kitchen table and did not go downstairs. The tension reached its tipping point on Thursday. Sam logged into the app dashboard during his lunch break, half distracted, scrolling through analytics that were normally comforting. Viewer counts were consistent, engagement steady. One metric stood out. Mentions. He clicked. Several users had started threads speculating, harmless, mostly, but persistent enough to scrape against his nerves. New reviewer vibes were good. "Hope she comes back." Was that a bit, or? Sam shut the app abruptly. He realized, with unpleasant clarity, that he didn't like sharing Lily with an audience that didn't know her. That, more than anything else, unnerved him. When he got home, Lily's porch light was on. She sat on the steps, laptop beside her, phone pressed to her ear. She laughed at something soft, unguarded, the sound catching him mid-stride. He stopped, then deliberately kept walking until he reached his own front door. Inside, Sam paced once, then twice. He favored directness. He just needed to decide what directness looked like now. He picked up his phone. "Hey, do you have a minute?" The reply came quickly. "Yeah." He didn't type right away. Then, "Would you want to come over?" "Not for a movie, just to talk." Pause longer this time. "Okay." She arrived 10 minutes later. No wine, no DVD, just Lily, hands in her jacket pockets again, expression cautious but open. They didn't go downstairs. Sam gestured toward the living room. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, a choice that felt intentional rather than distant. "I don't want to make assumptions," Sam began, then stopped. He didn't believe in preambles. "I noticed you haven't been around much this week." She nodded. "I noticed you noticed." He huffed a quiet laugh. "Fair." And, she added, "I noticed the audience noticed." His shoulders tensed. "That wasn't supposed to happen." "I know," Lily said gently. "Which is kind of the problem." He looked at her. Really looked. "This," she said, gesturing between them, "has been happening in the shadow of something that matters to you, and I don't want to compete with it. I also don't want to be invisible." "You're not invisible," Sam said immediately. "On the stream," she clarified. "I am. Off it. I'm not sure where I stand." He was quiet for a moment, reorganizing the way he'd been framing the situation. "I never meant for you to feel adjacent," he said finally. "I just didn't want to pull you into something that wasn't yours." "That's protective," Lily said. "But it's also a decision you made for me." He nodded slowly. "You're right." They sat with that. "Here's the thing," Lily said. "I like you. I like the way you pay attention. I don't need to be part of the channel. But I do need to know I'm not something you compartmentalize until it's convenient." Sam leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I don't do casual," he said. "When I try, it ends badly." "So we agree there," she replied. He looked up. "But I don't want to turn you into content. Or context. Or something the audience gets opinions on." Her expression softened. "I don't want that either." Silence settled. Not retreating this time, but recalibrating. "I should have said something sooner," Sam admitted. "Instead of waiting." Lily smiled faintly. "You really are that guy." "I'm working on it." She laughed. "Good." He met her gaze. "I want you here. Not as a guest. Not as a feature. As yourself." She held the look a beat longer, then nodded. "Okay." They didn't resolve everything. They didn't need to. When Lily stood to leave, she paused near the door. "For the record," she said, "your audience doesn't get to decide how this goes." Sam smiled, small, genuine. "Agreed." After she left, he went downstairs alone and looked at the 5 chairs. He didn't move them, but he didn't straighten the second one either. Forward momentum, he reminded himself, didn't mean rushing. It meant choosing not to stand still. Chapter 6, the intermission, the quiet changed shape. Sam noticed it on Friday morning, standing at the sink with his coffee cooling untouched beside him. It wasn't emptiness. It was space, open in a way that suggested possibility rather than absence, that had never unsettled him before. He went through his day as usual. Work was fine. A minor problem presented itself and resolved neatly. His coworkers chatted about a weekend team hike he had politely declined, and no one pushed. Sam liked that about them. But his attention drifted in uncharacteristic intervals. He thought about Lily's voice, measured but warm. About the way she'd said "I like you" without inflation or apology. About how she hadn't asked him to change anything outright, only to acknowledge that quiet could become a wall if he let it. That was the problem with observation, Sam reflected. Once you let it land, you couldn't unnotice it. He didn't stream that night. Instead, he made dinner and ate it slower than usual, then went downstairs and turned the theater on without starting a movie. The seats waited patiently. The screen glowed blank. Sam sat in the center chair and let the silence sit. For years, his life had been elegantly compartmentalized. Work upstairs in the world. Passion downstairs where no one could dilute it. Relationships, well, relationships had stayed hypothetical. He'd framed it as discernment. Now he wondered if it had been avoidance with good lighting. Across the street, Lily spent Friday night assembling a bookshelf that absolutely refused to cooperate. She muttered at it between sips of takeout wine, irritation held at bay by the awareness that this was a problem with a solution. Unlike people, she thought about Sam more than she'd intended to, not obsessively. She was past that phase of life, but with an alertness she hadn't felt in a while. She replayed conversations not to dissect them, but to test whether they rang true in memory. They did. That, she realized, was the dangerous part. Sam hadn't tried to impress her. He hadn't rushed intimacy or used detachment as currency. He had listened deeply and responded with careful honesty. What unsettled her wasn't that he'd been quiet. It was that she could feel how much he was holding back, not from disinterest but from caution. By midnight, the bookshelf stood, uneasily proud of itself. Lily stepped back, assessing. "Functional," she declared. "Just like me." She laughed softly, picked up her phone, and typed. Then deleted it. Then typed again. "How's your night?" The reply came sooner than she expected. Quiet, but not in a bad way. She smiled. Saturday arrived without agenda. Sam slept in an extra hour, reckless by his standards, and made breakfast he normally reserved for Sundays. He took his coffee out onto the back steps and let the air settle around him. 10, his phone buzzed. "Do you want to go for a walk or something later?" Not a plan. Just outside. Sam considered it. Not the walk. The something later. The lack of a script. Yeah, he typed. "That sounds good." They met at the end of the block, neither of them carrying anything except keys and mild uncertainty. "Hi," Lily said, hands in her jacket pockets. "Hi." They started walking without negotiating direction, the neighborhood providing a neutral path. For a while, they talked about nothing, work frustrations, bad user design, the way spring pretended to arrive and then retreated. Easy terrain. Eventually, Lily said, "I think we're both in an intermission." Sam glanced at her. "A what?" "Between acts," she explained, "where everything important has already happened, but nothing's been resolved yet." "That's unsettlingly accurate." "You're not spinning out," she clarified. "You're recalibrating." He nodded slowly. "I don't love recalibration. Most people don't." They walked another block in companionable silence. "Can I ask you something?" Sam said. "Please." "When you pulled back earlier this week," he said carefully, "were you expecting me to notice?" She smiled faintly. "I was expecting you to choose whether to. And if I hadn't, then I would have," she said simply. He absorbed that. "I like that. I hoped you would." They reached a small park and sat on the low stone wall bordering it. Kids played somewhere out of sight. A dog barked joyfully at nothing. "I don't want to be someone you have to convince," Lily said, "or someone you protect from your life." Sam watched a leaf skitter across the pavement. "I don't want to turn you into a variable I optimize around." She laughed softly. "You're adorable when you talk like a system engineer." "That wasn't a compliment," he said, but there was no heat in it. "I know." They stood again, finished the loop without ceremony. Back at the corner where they'd met, Lily paused. "I'm streaming adjacent tonight," she said lightly. "If that tells you anything." Sam smiled, slow, deliberate. "It tells me exactly enough." Later that evening, Sam went downstairs and cued a movie. Not to stream, just to watch. Halfway through, he realized he was smiling at nothing in particular. The quiet was still there. It had just stopped asking to be defended. Chapter 7, Feature Presentation. The decision arrived quietly, as most of Sam's important ones did. He was standing in the basement on Sunday evening, popcorn already warm, movie cued but not yet started. The chair beside his remained empty, not accusingly so, just present. Sam had stopped adjusting it days ago. It existed now as itself, not a placeholder. On the tablet beside him, the app dashboard waited. Stream title field blank. Countdown not initiated. Sam rested his hands on the chair arms and exhaled. For 6 years, was it worth the popcorn had been his sanctuary. Not a brand. Not a performance ladder. A room where enthusiasm wasn't negotiated, just shared. When he'd built the custom sync application, he hadn't done it to scale up. He'd done it to lean in. Somewhere along the way, leaning in had become public. That didn't mean it had to stay impersonal. Sam opened the stream settings and typed a title. Tonight, watching together with Lily. He stared at it. Not for approval, he didn't need that, but for alignment. Felt honest, specific, deliberate. He hit save. Upstairs, across the street, Lily stared at the notification on her phone. She read it twice, posture stiffening not with nerves but with the awareness of choice. Sam hadn't asked privately. He hadn't hinted. He hadn't framed it as a test. He had named her. She smiled, slow and real, and grabbed her jacket. When Lily knocked, Sam opened the door already smiling. "You're early," he said. "I assumed you'd appreciate punctuality," she replied. "Given everything." "Yes," he said. "I do." They went downstairs together, steps matching naturally now. Sam didn't explain anything. Lily didn't ask. The stream went live at exactly 8. "All right," Sam said, voice steady but warmer than usual. "Before we start, a quick note. Tonight is a little different." The chat scrolled faster than he'd seen in weeks. Retro Rex, Eyes, Janet Movies. Wait, what? Celluloid Soul. Hello? "This channel has always been about watching movies together," Sam continued. "But sometimes together means more than sync and timestamps." He gestured briefly toward Lily. The camera frame widened just enough to include her. Not centered, not spotlighted. Present. "This is Lily," he said simply. "She's here because she wants to be." Lily gave a small wave. "Hi. I promise not to hijack the commentary." The chat exploded. Retrorex. "She's real. Janet Movies. HHH. Celluloid Soul." Welcome waving hand. Sam let the noise crest, then added, "We'll keep the focus where it belongs. Movie first. Everything else second." Lily leaned over. "Diplomatic," she murmured. "I practice restraint," he said under his breath. They started the film. It was an old romantic comedy. Sharp dialogue, gentle pacing, a story about people who circled each other for far too long before admitting they wanted the same things. The commentary unfolded easily. Lily pointed out timing choices. Sam countered with structure notes. Occasionally they disagreed, but without performance, without friction. The chat reacted, but Sam felt no pull to manage it. Halfway through, Lily said, "This movie is allergic to silence." Sam nodded, afraid the audience might wander. "Do you think that happens?" she asked quietly. He considered. "Only if they don't feel trusted." The chat paused, as if collectively holding breath. Elchin_stats. "Wow, okay, that landed," Sam smiled knowingly. When the credits rolled, the applause emojis poured in. Sam waited before speaking. "Thanks for being here tonight," he said. "All of you. That's it. No surprise ending. Just good company." Lily leaned back in her chair, eyes soft. "That went well." "It did," Sam agreed. "Better than planned." After the stream ended and the lights came up, Lily turned to him fully. "You didn't ask me first," she said, not accusingly, but with curiosity. "I didn't want it to feel like I was negotiating my own life," Sam replied. "I wanted it to feel like standing where I am." She smiled. It did. They sat there for a moment, the aftermath settling. "So," Lily said, "what happens now?" Sam didn't rush the answer. "Now," he said, "we keep choosing each other intentionally. No commentary required." "That sounds suspiciously like a relationship." He met her gaze. "I believe that's the term." She laughed, leaned in, and kissed him, soft, sure, unhurried. Outside, nothing remarkable happened. Inside, Sam Baxter realized that for the first time, quiet didn't feel like retreat. Felt like space worth sharing. Chapter 9, was it worth the popcorn? The question arrived the way conclusions usually did for Sam Baxter. Not at the end of something dramatic, but in the quiet aftermath when no one was watching him think. It was a Thursday evening in early summer. The windows were open. The neighborhood hummed softly with people existing at the edges of each other's lives. Someone grilling 2 houses down. A radio playing faintly somewhere. Laughter carried and lost. Sam sat alone in the basement. Lights dimmed. Screen paused on a blank frame. He wasn't streaming. That, in itself, would have been unthinkable a year earlier. He leaned back in the center chair and considered the arc of his days. The subtle rewrites he hadn't consciously authored until they were already canon. He thought about routines kept and routines loosened, about how control had given way not to chaos but to trust, about how quiet had learned to breathe. Upstairs, a door opened. Footsteps descended the stairs with familiar cadence. "You ready?" Lily asked, appearing at the bottom, keys in hand. "Almost," Sam said. "Just finishing something." She came closer, peered at the screen. "Nothing's playing." "I know." She waited without pressing. That, he'd learned, was love's most generous gesture. Sam shut everything down, powered off the projector, and stood. "All right." They locked up and walked out into the evening together, the sidewalk warm beneath their feet. They hadn't discussed where they were going, which had become a small pleasure, letting direction emerge. The theater marquee was visible 3 blocks away, bright against the dark. "Double feature?" Lily asked. "Always," Sam replied. They bought popcorn, shared this time, and found seats slightly off-center. because Sam no longer needed the exact middle to feel grounded. Lily leaned into him during the previews, her shoulder familiar, solid. The first movie was forgettable. They whispered commentary to each other anyway. The second was better. Wry, observant, unafraid of stillness. It trusted the audience. Halfway through, Lily murmured, "This one listens." Sam smiled into the dark. "Yeah." When the credits rolled, they stayed seated longer than the rest of the audience, letting the noise drain away. "So," Lily said eventually, "worth the popcorn?" Sam thought about it. Not the movie, but the year that now felt like it had quietly edited itself into a truer cut. He thought about the basement that had changed without losing its soul. About viewers who stayed not because they were entertained, but because they were included. About a woman who had stepped into his life without demanding volume, just presence. He turned to her. "Yeah," he said. "Absolutely." She grinned, pleased but unsurprised. "Good." Outside, they walked home under strings of porch lights and passing conversations. At their doorways, Lily lingered the same way Sam used to linger alone. No rush, content to let the moment settle. "Hey," she said. "You know you didn't have to change everything." "I know," Sam replied. "I didn't." She kissed him lightly, then more fully, hands warm at his collar. "Good night, Sam Baxter," she said. "Good night, Lily Chen." Inside, Sam went downstairs one last time that night. Not to stream, not to review. He stood in the center of the room and looked around. The seats, the screen, the popcorn machine humming softly. He pulled out his phone and opened the channel app, scrolling past metrics, past comments, stopping at a blank draft labeled Next Review. He typed, "Final thoughts. Sometimes the thing you love doesn't need protecting. Sometimes it needs sharing. Was it worth the popcorn? It always is when you don't watch alone." Sam saved the draft, shut off the lights, and went upstairs, where quiet waited. Not as refuge, but as invitation. And for the first time, the answer felt complete.